Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my humble show of Filipino Hustle Fridays, of course, run by my special team at JH Creative. This would not be possible without my awesome team. And thank you so much, Gelaine Santiago, for hopping on and telling us about your story with Cambio Co. and Sinta Co. You have multiple businesses.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and so like you've done so much at a young age, to run custom jewelry and sell it online is not the easiest business model. So tell us a little bit about how you started and why you do what you do.
Okay, yes. So we don't actually make specifically custom jewelry, but we do have customization options. So I just want to
Yes,
clarify
anytime.
that. Yeah, I guess as a little backstory of what we do. So Cambio Co is a Filipino jewelry company. We specifically work with artisans in the Philippines with the mission to create sustainable livelihood for traditional craftspeople and really celebrate Filipino craftsmanship at the same time. And what we do is use fashion and jewelry as a way to have conversations about our history as Filipinos, Filipino history, and also challenging some of the mentalities that we have as Filipinos about like what it means for something to be made in Philippines, challenging some of those colonial narratives that we kind of grew up with, and just like having conversations about how we can reconnect with our cultures as part of the diaspora. And how we got started, it was really like super unexpected. It was not on my radar at all in terms of
really
company. So the high level of it is that I actually traveled back to the Philippines for the first time. I was born in Bulacan, so that's where my dad is from, in the province of Bulacan, and then we immigrated to Canada when I was about 3 years old. And I didn't grow up super connected with like my Filipino heritage. I didn't really know many other Filipinos growing up, and so it was like a lot of my life I kind of spent it very distant from my roots and not really knowing much about Filipino heritage or culture until I went back to Philippines when I was about 22 years old. And going back to Philippines, like that was a really eye-opening experience, just realizing like, wow, there's so many family members that I haven't met. There's so much about my own history that I don't know about. And that really sparked a lot of curiosity in me about just like the Philippines in general. And so my partner and I, who's now my husband and who's my fellow co-founder with Cambio, we began just like learning about different, social enterprises in the Philippines, what the entrepreneurship scene or the business ecosystem looks like in the Philippines, and learned about these really amazing designers and, ethical fashion brands and just very amazing Filipina entrepreneurs in Philippines who are using their platforms to, create livelihood for artisans and really celebrating Filipino culture. And that was the first time I really saw that. Like I didn't have any reference point at that point, just like seeing Filipina entrepreneurs in the first place, like a Filipina CEO. I had never seen that before in my life. And also just Filipinos who were so proud of their country. I just didn't really grow up with that narrative in the same way because my parents, we were very much focused on like just getting by in terms of assimilating into the culture and just trying to like, fit in.
Surviving.
Yeah, surviving. Yeah. And like I totally understand. Like I have a lot of empathy for newcomers and people, our kababayan who are just trying to like figure things out in a new country. But that was kind of my reference point. That was like a big turning point for me, was being able to see these Filipina CEOs, entrepreneurs, and that sparked the idea of like, wow, like what if we were to bring some of those products here then to Canada and to like share that with other Filipinos in the diaspora who are also trying to, like, people like me who also want to see this and like see those examples and see pieces made in Philippines that are really proudly Filipino. And that was the idea for it, really. So that was 9 years ago. Cambio Co turned 9 last month in March. So yeah, it's been quite the journey and very unexpected. Not at all on my career plans.
I love the accidental entrepreneurial stories.
Yeah.
There's really a cause and vision behind it. And I just the products and the detail that your team puts into these just jewelry in general, and even the packaging. I saw the video and the reel about the packaging. That was so cute. I mean, that alone would sell so well. And yeah, it's just really, really cool. So, and you've been featured in the media, Cosmopolitan, CBC, Huffington Post, the New York Times. Like, was that earned media, or your team also, like, you know, you have like a PR team member that helped you make that happen?
That's a good question. It's a mix
Yeah.
of earned media and like just us kind of reaching out. But
Yeah.
in terms of Cosmo specifically, that came about from me getting an award for in Canada. There's the RBC Top 25 Canadian Immigrant Awards, which is relative like a quite a high profile award. I ended
Yeah.
up getting, that award because I was nominated by another Pinay in the community who nominated me, and then yeah, I was able to win that, and it's such an honor and very unexpected. And I'm really, really grateful for for that opportunity, and that came really from the community, because I honestly, it was not on my radar at all. It was also I got that award at a point when the business was struggling so much, and I was like, I don't deserve this award. Like, why am I getting this award? So I think that was kind of where that was a surprise. But then we have a friend who works in PR, and she, we
That's
worked with
awesome.
her to help us like get this story out there. And so she reached out to a few different publications, and we were able to get in contact, like someone kind of knew someone who was a writer for Cosmo magazine. And so
Awesome.
I ended up getting that feature. So it was kind of a mix of different things. I think it's when it comes to PR and media opportunities, like what I try to tell people is like finding those opportunities where like there's momentum already. You kind of just have to like know when to jump to that occasion, and know when there's a story that like a publication could be interested in, and kind of like riding on that wave. Because yeah, that's kind of like where a lot of our major features kind of came from, was not necessarily us going out there and chasing after it, but kind of like a mix
Yeah.
of circumstances that come up, and then you just kind of like jump at the opportunity.
That's awesome. And I feel like that PR in general is very important as far as communication strategy and marketing and things like that. And so where have you noticed that you feel like, because I remember when I started following you, I think it was probably maybe 10,000 followers on Instagram, and now you're at like 40,000 or something.
Yeah.
So where have you seen the uptick, and where did you notice that it just started exponentially growing?
That's a good question. I think we kind of had there are kind of like waves of growth. So yeah, the fact you're following at 10K, like that's nice. Like that means you've been following for a while. um, I think the uptick kind of started when we went through like a big transformation for our brand in 2018. So we started 2015. 2018 was the year we kind of like rebranded. We went all in on the Filipino story, because there was a point when we were like kind of not that focused as much as we are on like Filipino craftsmanship specifically, and sharing the kind of stories that we share now. So when we did that rebrand and change in 2018, and really went all in on like, I want to be proudly, unapologetically like Filipino, and celebrating Filipino excellence, and tackling these really challenging topics about like reconnecting with our heritage and things like that, that a lot of platforms were not speaking about at the time. That's where we saw the initial kind of growth that was really happening on our Instagram specifically. And then over the years, I think it kind of came with different moments. Like in 2020, we were talking about, there was a lot of like the racial reckoning, and
Right.
like solidarity with the Black community. And so
Yeah.
we were talking about those topics. I think I'm really proud to say like we don't shy away from the hard topics. And so
Yeah.
when we do talk about those things, like not that it's a marketing opportunity, but it's something that our community is looking for. You know, like people are genuinely looking for these spaces to have these conversations. And so we have been able to see this very organic growth when we do try like tackle these things that people don't get to find elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then specifically in terms of just like what like the social media landscape, I guess like the change to reels really like more video first on Instagram really was such a big shift. And so that's also, we actually ended up onboarding a team member 2 years ago who was, she's like a general social media specialist for our team, but like part of the reason we were called to like work with her is because she's really, really good with video. And so she's the one like Pilar who edits and creates a lot of our reels. And then we also began working with Trisha, who you see like her face. She's like the one who does a lot of our styling videos. Like that's Trisha.
Right here?
Yeah, that's Trisha. So she does a lot of our videos as well. And so like
I thought that was you for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, she looks different a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, I think people mix us up sometimes, which is
yeah, you probably get.
Yeah. Because yeah, sometimes we have like events in person and people will be talking to her and she's like, oh, like, no, I'm not Gelaine. So yeah, I think it's very funny because people definitely mix us up. But yeah, I think like once we kind of we made that shift to be more video first, like that was a huge shift for the team. Because at that point we were still doing like carousels and photo posts. And then I think this is something that would be really valuable for like your folks who are listening, but like at that time when we were seeing like things were really shifting to be video first, our team was not set up for it. Like my current team member, like Nikki, who has been with us for 5 years, who is an amazing storyteller, but like video like is not her forte. And she, you know, she knows, like we had this conversation.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
I just don't it's like good to recognize it. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fair. Like I understand. And so and so we kind of were able to think of like, okay, like how do we restructure the team then to kind of figure out how do we make this shift? Because this is a really important shift for us. And that's when we started looking for a new team member to support with like more video first content. And so we found Pilar. And then from there, we were able to promote Nikki to content marketing manager. So now Nikki does a lot of the things that I was doing when it was just me and Nikki. And I can kind of take a more high level approach now in terms of like our marketing and content strategies. So more the messaging and kind of the strategy, and Nikki and Pilar are able to work more closely together on the actual like individual like post itself. So that's kind of like how we restructured. And since we went with the video approach, like we had a bunch of reels that went viral.
Yeah.
And even on TikTok, we were able to grow relatively fast. Like basically, I think now we have 14,000 followers, and most of that growth came in like 6 months.
Wow. So, TikTok. So you're having great experience with TikTok. I mean, I hear good things for commerce, you know, e-commerce and TikTok.
Yes, TikTok has been interesting. It's definitely helpful. It's a challenge right now. We like grew super quickly. And then we kind of stalled like right now. So it's kind of one of those platforms where we're still trying to figure out, okay, like how do we continue this growth and how do we do this in a way that like doesn't burn our team out? Because we're still a pretty small team that like there's enough of a difference between Instagram and TikTok where you still need to make original content on TikTok.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's like, how do we, should we prioritize TikTok? I know, like, what do we do? How do we have these conversations as a team of like what to prioritize and how? So I think as entrepreneurs, we are constantly tweaking. You have to constantly play with things and not be afraid to change things up, even if it's like a drastic change for your team. Trust that you'll figure it out.
Seriously. And so I totally agree too. And then for me, with my target base, I don't focus on TikTok. I mean, I kind of dabbled with it. I was like, I just don't have enough time. I'll hear about it from my kids. But so are you noticing though that you're getting more sales from Facebook and Instagram? Like, where are you feeling that you're getting more traction? Like, do you have an email newsletter too? I know that's really effective.
We get most of our sales still from Instagram. So that's still like our main platform, which is pro and con to it. Like the pro is that most of our sales are organic. Like we have some ads running, but not a ton. It's just very retargeting ads. But most of it is just like people coming from Instagram. So a lot of it is just organic sales, which is amazing. But then you're also like really susceptible and vulnerable to the algorithm, and Meta is like constantly changing things.
Tell me about it.
It's very frustrating sometimes. But we're also trying to diversify in terms of our platforms. I think the diversification piece is important if you're at a point in your business where you have the support to be able to like be on multiple platforms. So that's kind of the caveat that I'll say is like, if you're a solopreneur and you're struggling to make content for even one platform, then like focus on that one platform and don't worry about being everywhere, because you'll just burn yourself out.
I completely agree. Yes.
But outside of Instagram, so TikTok has been really effective in terms of getting sales and also reaching a new audience, because like on TikTok, it's a lot younger. It's a very different demographic. So we have been able to grow and get like a very amazing customer, like new customer group from TikTok.
Yeah.
And we have an email newsletter. So the email newsletter has been really effective for us. It's a lot smaller, obviously, in terms of the number of subscribers versus followers on Instagram, but like the conversion rate is so much higher. Like newsletters are really effective, and they're like converting marketing platforms. Yeah.
And you own that. Like you own that's the owned media. Like the email list is your own media. And those are the loyal customers that really want to keep following you.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of email newsletters. I subscribe to a lot of brands, and I still look at their stuff. And if there's specials, I'll look them up and do a search. So I highly recommend growing your email list, or just encouraging people, pushing, because you have such a huge following. They probably forget. Like, I don't see your posts all the time, and I follow you, you know? So that's something that is like you said, you're just kind of at the mercy of the algorithm. And I'm noticing brands are just heavily investing in email as well, and video for sure, like you said. So you also have Sinta Co. Like, tell me, like, when did you launch this one, and what made you want to decide to do this brand? And it's focused on weddings, right?
Yes. So Sinta Co. is similar advocacy to Cambio Co. in that everything is designed and handcrafted in Philippines and supports sustainable livelihood for artisans that we work with, but very focused on Filipino weddings. So it's even more niche than Cambio. And Sinta Co. we started in 2019, so about 4 years after Cambio. And that came about actually because my partner and I, Jerome, got married in 2018. So while we were planning our wedding in 2018, I was like looking for a cord and veil and like, you know, the traditional ceremony, and also just trying to like figure out what are the Filipino elements that we can have for our wedding. That was really important to me. And I couldn't really find, I think there was like one blog post that I found online, and that was it. And in terms of just sourcing ceremony, like essentials like the cord and the veil and the coins, like my mom had to ask a friend of a friend. And in the end, like, like I didn't even get to see what they look like until the day of the wedding, because they were just borrowed at the last minute. And so, and so like Jerome and I realized like, oh, actually, like I'm sure other couples kind of like have struggled with the same things. And like I asked some friends around to ask like what they did, and one of our friends, like for her cord, she bought like IKEA curtains and like took the cord that ties around the curtains as her cord. And I was like, okay, we deserve better than that. Like we, you know, like makeshifting.
So
that was kind of like the initial realization of like, like we can do this. We already have, we're already set up for it. We're already sourcing pieces from Philippines. We already have a lot of the contacts. And so we just asked our partners around and asked like, okay, who's making wedding things, like who can provide us like with veils, you know, coins, cords, and a lot of our pieces that are on Sinta are also overlap with Cambio. But there's also some pieces that are really unique to Sinta. So there's like enough overlap that it's like still like it's all the same team that's running both. We don't have a separate Sinta team or separate Canada.
Yeah.
It's all us still.
Yeah.
But we are still able to make enough differentiation that it's still like a very unique brand and unique storytelling. So yeah, it's been growing. Though it's
So
really
this,
challenging to run two
wow,
brands. I'm not gonna
it's
lie.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And so, I mean, even the reels that I see that you share, like even just getting into the detail of the process. And I love how everything is tied into the Filipino community and everything there. Your artisans featuring the artisans there. It's just really awesome. Is there any favorite pieces you would love to share, like between Sinta Co and Cambio? Like,
Ooh, yeah. If we want to feature, to start with Sinta,
yeah.
there are.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful pieces. I think the one that I really love, if you go to our coins. So if you go
So
to, yeah,
coins.
so if you go to the shop,
Right here.
yeah, and then go to Filipino wedding ceremony. Oh, there, and then
Right
you
here?
can go to, yes, and then you can just go to. So we have all of these options, but one of my favorite pieces are Love and Blossoms Unity coins. So if you just scroll a bit down, they are. Oh,
This
here,
one?
yes, those ones. So
This
these.
should be at the top.
Yeah, these are beautiful. I am so proud of these because these ones we actually worked with a calligrapher and like a small,
Wow.
very small Filipino-owned brand in Philippines to make these coins. And each coin has a different word for love in a different Philippine language. Because of course,
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
yeah, I really love it. And so of course Philippines, there's like hundreds of different languages, and beyond just Tagalog. And so the way to be able to honor that. And on the back of each coin too is a different plant or flower that's indigenous and local to the Philippines. And so it's just like a really beautiful story. And I love these because these are like keepsakes that you can
Those
really.
are so awesome. I love it. That is so unique. I mean, I pulled it off. Why did I pull you off? Right there. That is so unique. That is so cool.
Yeah, thank you. And these ones, we have started taking some customizations for these as well. So we worked with a couple, just recently, a few couples who wanted to change the font or change some of the words.
Wow.
That's something that we're able to offer now as well.
I should tell my cousin. He's getting married in October. I don't know if they know about this, but
oh, yes, please.
Yeah. I mean, is there a way I can gift something I should probably just gift them.
Yeah, for gifting, we definitely send a lot of gifts. And so everything, like Julia mentioned, comes in beautiful packaging. Some of our pieces come with capiz shell boxes. Other ones come with the buri hand woven boxes. So everything comes in beautiful packaging. And we also have gift notes that we can custom write for you. If you want to show the packaging. Yeah, that's what our hand woven buri box is. And for this, we actually worked with a woman-owned social enterprise. Oh, perfect. Yeah, a woman-owned social enterprise in Bulacan. So in close to my dad's hometown, actually, to make these. And they use a form of craftsmanship called puni weaving, which is very traditional, that uses coconut leaves. And then, so our version uses palm leaves because it's a bit more longer lasting. But yeah, even the packaging, I just love being able to have that story in the packaging itself. So it's all supporting livelihood for artisans at the same time. And it's also just beautiful. So you can easily do that too.
Yeah. I mean, you probably could sell that alone. I'm sorry.
We were talking about it actually.
Because you put so much time and energy in the whole production of that product. I would buy a set.
Oh.
As to gift things, but I'm just saying that is such a awesome concept.
Yeah. It's actually one of the things we were talking about now with Sinta, because I think a lot of people buy gifts for wedding favors or for their wedding party. So you could like trying to figure out if if the artisans would be able to make like larger volumes in case people want to buy like multiples
Yeah.
for their weddings to give as like wedding favors for the guests. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
that is so
there's
cute. Oh my
on that.
gosh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, even that post alone, 26,000, views. Just like all your pieces have a story, and that's so fascinating, and it's a lot of work. So I know it's getting close. I'm like, I could probably talk to you for hours. But then how do you, because e-commerce in general is a huge challenge, right? So with so much detail, so much quality, and your team, like how do you manage it all? What would you say, as a recommendation to someone who's also trying to sell things online? Like you do a lot of other community related events, community building events.
Yes, it's a good question. What would I say? I
You're
think
coming up on your almost 10th year. Like
yes,
that's
no,
not easy.
yeah. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I think what I'd say is to not be afraid to experiment. You have to play around with a lot of different things to kind of see what works. And even once you find something that works, things may change. You have no idea a pandemic could happen, right? Like um, especially if you're working with artisans or using natural materials, it could be like a blight or epidemic or something like that that really impacts your supply. And we saw that with a lot of e-commerce businesses as well, just being really impacted. So like, I think you really need to experiment and stay flexible and just always be ready to respond. But at the same time, stay rooted in what your why is. Because I think that if you know why you're building your business, how you want to serve your community and knowing the kind of impact that you want to create, even if you don't know necessarily what that looks like, at least if you have a sense of like what you want to represent of like what kind of business you feel really called to build, have that vision in your mind, even if it's not fully clear, and just stay rooted in that, and that will guide you as you pivot and you play and experiment. And then second to that is like, don't be afraid to say no to things and just decide to let things go if they're no longer working or if it's no longer serving you. There are a lot of things that we did, like we used to sell a lot in person, doing farmers markets and pop-ups, and like that was really, really draining, and in the end it wasn't really very effective for us at some point, because we realized that like actually selling online, like we're good at it, it's less energy intensive, and that's how we can grow. And like that suited mine and my partner Jerome's skill set. So we pivoted online and stopped doing markets. And so just kind of like having those clear boundaries and not being afraid to say no more than you say yes, I think is really, really important, because especially with e-commerce, like your margins are really tight, shipping's so expensive, material costs are getting higher. You still need to make sure that everyone is paid well and, is paid. And also like, I'm hoping that everyone who's listening wants to ensure that their teams are getting paid well and, being cared for in a really genuine way. And so all of that adds up to, and so like, I think like just having a clear focus and not being afraid to let go of the things that are like taking up too much time or resources is really
Yeah.
key to sticking around in the long term. Yeah.
That is so important. It has to be sustainable, because like a lot of the times business owners are the last ones to get paid. Like we do bear a lot in people who don't know what it's like to run a business or start, and just doesn't see the big picture. And you want to make sure that you don't lose any team members, or you don't want to let go team members, but you're thinking of them primarily too, not just the customers. You're thinking of your team. And I completely agree. And we do our best, like even sacrifice a lot, not only just for our immediate circle and family, but even for the team, because they are like our extended family. So I just like, you do so much, like your team like also highlights others. Like it's just, you do a lot of storytelling, which I think is a huge factor as well. Like we have a little bit of like, because I don't want to just have a hard stop here and end abruptly, but like I just want to thank you for doing what you do and what you do for the Filipino community and highlighting our heritage and educating everyone about the Philippines. And for anyone who doesn't know, like obviously follow Gelaine, like go to her website, go to her multiple companies and support her. And you do so much. And so I just appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come here and tell us a little bit about your story and tell us about Cambio and Sinta. And so I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And like, maraming salamat sa inyo lahat for like listening as well. Like, thank you. Yeah. And more power to all of us who are trying to build something for the community.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I'm hoping to do with Filipino Hustle Fridays. So for anyone who wants to highlight their story and just feature somebody that you think that should talk about their story, please let me know. I would love to have them on. And Gelaine, thanks again. And I will see you on the other side.